This is the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chazz Sr., and as always, no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. And coming up, this is a big one. The San Francisco 49ers announcing their initial 2025 53-man roster. So we'll take a look at who made the team, but also the players who the Niners have let go. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for daily and year-round coverage of the Niners. And if you haven't catched a show this week, I'm here in Costa Rica still bringing you the content, just getting a little bit of a reset and a vacation prior to the NFL season getting underway next week. We'll be doing a watch party for that Week 1 game against the Seattle Seahawks, and I'll continue to give you excellent content here on the show. Anytime I'm talking Niners, I want our coverage to be insightful, informative, entertaining, thought-provoking. I want you to learn something, but I want you to have a voice. If all that sounds great, join the 165,000 people worldwide who have hit that sub button already and join the movement right now. Let's dive in. So the 49ers today announcing all of these roster moves, a slew of them, announcing their initial 53-man roster. And let me just set the foundation by saying this. Just because this is the initial 53-man roster doesn't mean it's going to be the 53-man roster going into Week 1. The Niners are still going to monitor the waiver wire. They're going to take a look at trade candidates. They're going to try to extract value the best that they can. And there are still moves that can be made over the next few hours, the next few days, the next few weeks. And so just because a player made the 53 today doesn't mean that they're going to be on this team and suit up Week 1 when the Niners hit the road to play the Seahawks. And so these players have been let go by San Francisco, and some of them, of course, are practice squad candidates. Robbie Chosen Anderson, I think, is going to be back on the practice squad, and there's a chance, because he's a vested veteran, that he signs to the taxi squad and he's in uniform Week 1 for San Francisco just because of how thin they are at the wide receiver spot. Robbie Chosen, obviously toward the end of his career, but he can still really run. He was a 4.3 guy coming out of Temple University as a UDFA. He wasn't invited to the NFL Combine. He wowed a lot of people at his local pro day and at the Temple pro day by running that fast, and he still has that speed. We especially saw it against the Las Vegas Raiders, but I didn't think that he was worthy of a spot on the 53. But again, because San Francisco is injury depleted at that wide receiver position, he could be in uniform Week 1. Offensive lineman Michael Dunn also released. Wide receiver Russell Gage released. A little bit of a surprise here, but as we're about to talk about, the Niners really go trench heavy along the offensive line and defensive line, which is why they went lighter at a couple of other positions. Gage had a really good training camp. He too could be back on the practice squad and be in uniform Week 1, but he is coming off that knee injury. Defensive lineman Jonathan Garvin, defensive lineman Trevis Gipson. Of those two, I was really impressed with Gipson, especially in that final preseason game. He could be kind of a high-floor veteran type of player who is signed to the practice squad and gives this Niners team depth at the edge rusher spot. A big reason he and other defensive ends were let go. Yetur Gross-Matos passed his physical, and he's making the team. Defensive tackle Bruce Hector also released. So too was wide receiver Isaiah Hodgins, cornerback Fabian Moreau, punter Thomas Morstead. So the Niners do not have a punter on their initial 53, but Morstead has been in the league since 2009, 2010. He's a vested veteran. He could be back on the practice squad, and he could be this team's punter Week 1, but I frankly wasn't impressed by him at all throughout the preseason. A Brant Boyer guy who Boyer brought in, but he only averaged about 40 yards per punt throughout the preseason. Linebacker Curtis Robinson had that pick 6 in the preseason finale. Really good special teamer. Made the initial 53 last year. Doesn't this year, but he is a prime candidate to come back to the practice squad. Linebacker Chazz Surratt, good special teamer. Not good enough to make this team as a rotational backer. Wide receiver Malik Turner. I frankly thought that he was damn good in that final preseason game. Does he come back to the practice squad? I don't know. Robbie Chosen, Russell Gage, veterans who could be back, I doubt, or at least I'd be surprised if the Niners went with another vet at that wide receiver spot coming back to the practice squad. And then running back Jeff Wilson. Now, I say that about veterans. He really could come back to the practice squad. And Kyle Shanahan even said he's going to make our job tough, but the Niners after that Brian Robinson trade especially, pretty deep and talented enough at the running back position. So those players released. These players waived. Wide receiver Junior Bergen. Once San Francisco traded for Sky Moore, and then Sky Moore started at wideout, punt returner, and kick returner, that was a telltale sign that the 7th-round pick out of Montana wasn't going to make this team. Right now, he's a one-dimensional guy who isn't an NFL receiver. You have to be special. Dante Hall, Cordero Patterson special to make a team as just solely a special teamer. And a guy like Cordero Patterson, he played wide back, running back, and wide receiver. Stone Blanton Junior Bergen is only a punt returner. And so I agree with that decision there. We'll see if he comes back to the practice squad. The same could be said about Stone Blanton as far as the practice squad. The Niners gave him some decent money, and they gave him practice squad money. I think it was hovering around $200,000. I imagine they'd like to develop him, but they're also pretty rich at the linebacker position. But that's a player who can serve as a depth piece and as a special teamer at that spot. William Bradley King, defensive back Derrick Canteen as a rookie UDFA. I thought he was impressive. Cornerback Dallis Flowers, a little bit surprised by that. There were times without Renardo Green practicing due to that hamstring issue that he was starting running with the ones opposite of Diamador Lenore at outside corner. But he is a vet, and the Niners could look to bring him back. Linebacker Jalen Graham. Thought he was just going to be the odd man out, or at least one of the odd men out at that linebacker position. Safety Jaylen Mahoney not making it. Center Drake Nugent just beat out by Matt Hennessy, who I think the Niners like a little bit more. Defensive lineman Sebastian Valdez doesn't make the team. This is a risk. The man they call Hulk, I think he's a good talent and an NFL caliber player at defensive tackle. He plays with violence, strength, physicality. He has a good little burst at the line of scrimmage. He made plays all throughout the preseason. I would have loved to have seen the Niners have him on this 53-man roster, but again, they went deep in the trenches, and Sebastian Valdez wasn't a part of that equation. The Niners also let go of Terique Owens, and according to reports, they want to bring him back on the practice squad. And then tight end Brayden Willis, offensive lineman Nick Zakelj, not making the team. I agree with the decision to not have Nick Zakelj on the 53. Instead, hallelujah, Drew Moss, the UDFA out of Colorado State, who played awesome throughout the preseason, makes this club. Just because the Niners drafted Nick Zakelj and because he's Brock Purdy's buddy doesn't mean he should have made the 53. Keep your best players, and Drew Moss clearly a better player than Nick Zakelj. Yetur Gross-Matos has been activated from PUP. He passes physical, probably going to be injured in no time. We'll see how that goes. And then the following players have been placed on the IR list. Defensive lineman Kevin Givens, cornerback Jacob Robinson. For Givens, he is designated to return. That is not the case for Jacob Robinson. So that will be season-ending IR. The promising UDFA corner out of BYU broke his forearm in the preseason finale. I thought he had a chance to make the team. And then these players have been placed on the PUP list. Brandon Ayuk, Malik Mustafa. We knew that was going to happen. They'll come back hopefully at some point around week 6 has been the word coming out of Niners HQ. And then Curtis Rourke has been placed on the reserve non-football injury list. I think ideally the Niners want him to be QB3, but he played through an ACL last year. He's not ready to play and didn't do anything throughout the summer. But they like the 7th-round pick out of Indiana. And then the following players have been placed on the reserve and suspended list. Isaac Alarcon and wide receiver Demarcus Robinson. So Demarcus Robinson, because he's suspended 3 games to start the year, does not count toward the 53. I think he's a great addition to this team, especially at the price. I was impressed with what he did throughout training camp and in the preseason. That's a loss for San Francisco's offense and receiving core heading into 2025. They have to survive the first 3 weeks without him. So those players all let go or placed on PUP, IR, NFI, which stands for non-football injury list. We'll get to the Niners' initial 53 coming up just around the corner. But our sponsor, our friends at PrizePicks, best daily fantasy sports app in the game. You can win up to 2,000 times your money. You choose more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you can win some big-time money. Right now, when you play your first $5 lineup, you get $50 back instantly. So secure that $50 bonus right now by going to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Join the millions of people who have signed up and sign up today using our link, which is available down in the show notes and attached to the pinned comment of this edition of the 49ers Report. So the Niners on this initial 53, going with 2 quarterbacks here. Brock Purdy, Mac Jones. We'll see if they bring back Tanner Mordecai or Carter Bradley. But for now, it's only 2 quarterbacks. They're going to sign a QB to the practice squad because they need to. They need that emergency third quarterback on game day. At running back, 4 guys. Christian McCaffrey, Brian Robinson, Isaac Rendo, Jordan James. That's a really good group right there. And then Kyle Juszczyk, of course, makes the team at fullback. Wide receiver, 5 of them. Ricky Pearsall, Jawan Jennings, Jordan Watkins, Sky Moore, and Jacob Cowing. He's going to be out a little while because he re-injured his hamstring. But the Niners used up their spots for IR and PUP guys, and this also signals that hopefully the Niners believe that Jacob Cowing can come back at some point soon. But this is a huge risk. And this reminds me of what they did last year with John Feliciano, where he took up a spot on the 53 and then didn't play all year. And that wasted a roster spot. Hopefully the Niners aren't doing the same here with Jacob Cowing because that is a precious spot. There's no way he's going to be ready for week 1. And so you're going to see a lot of 12 personnel, 2 tight end sets, and a lot of 21 personnel early. And the Niners are going to run the rock a lot because they need to. 3 tight ends make the team. George Kittle, Luke Farrell, Jake Tonches. I thought there was a chance the Niners go with 4. They go with 3. 10 offensive linemen make the team. And I had all of this right here. So Trent Williams, Ben Barch, Jake Brendel, Dominic Pooney, Colton McKivitz. Most likely your starters from left to right. I hope that Connor Colby can unseat Ben Barch because that would be great. It means that he's developing and he played well throughout the preseason. Matt Hennessy going to be the backup center. Austin Pleasance and Spencer Burford, backup offensive tackles. And then Drew Moss, who I think could be a hidden gem for San Francisco, makes the initial 53 over Nick Zakelj. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, sometimes they'll keep their guys, keep guys who they like, who they drafted, just because they drafted them. Or in the case of Nick Zakelj, because he's homies with Brock Purdy, they kept the better player. Smart. 11 defensive linemen make this team. Nick Bosa, Jordan Elliott, Michael Williams, CJ West, Alfred Collins, Kalia Davis, Evan Anderson, Sam Okuwanu, Bryce Huff, Robert Beal, and Yetur Gross-Matos. Niners could have gone with 9. They could have gone with 10. They go with 11 here. And maybe by some people's surprise, Robert Beal, Yetur Gross-Matos make the team. I'm a little bit surprised by that. I didn't have them making the initial 53. Robert Beal just hasn't shown me much, and I didn't think that Yetur Gross-Matos is going to be healthy. Hopefully he can stay healthy because right now he's occupying a spot on the 53, and frankly, the Niners need it. Luckily, you do have some insurance going with 11 defensive linemen. So that is 21 players in the trenches for San Francisco here. 5 linebackers. Fred Warner, D. Winters, Nick Martin, Luke Gifford, and Tatum Bethune. Tatum Bethune is a good backup middle linebacker. Luke Gifford can play special teams. I think Nick Martin is going to be a star. Love the pick at the time. Throughout the preseason, he steadily improved. That's good stuff. And then Fred Warner and D. Winters will be your starters. Cornerback, Deommodore Lenoir, Renardo Green, Upton Stout, Darrell Luter Jr., Chase Lucas, and Saron Neal. Now, I kind of listed Saron Neal as a safety. He could play safety. He can play corner. He's only going to play special teams ideally. So really your corners who are actually going to see time coverage-wise in the secondary, Lenoir, Green, Stout, Luter, Lucas. I'm glad that the Niners are keeping a young player in Luter. Chase Lucas balled out throughout the preseason. And then Lenoir, Green, and Stout probably going to be your starters. At safety, 4. Jason Pinnock, Marquise Siegel, Jair Brown, Richie Grant. It's a pretty good safety group considering it was a big question mark going into training camp. We'll see if they trade Jair Brown. I don't think you can because Malik Mustafa is starting the year on PUP. And then only 2 specialists here. Jake Moody, John Weeks. Right now, the Niners do not have a punter. It's not going to be Kyle Juszczyk, who sometimes is the emergency kicker and punter. I imagine Morstead comes back to the practice squad, or the Niners do some type of roster gymnastics move to let a player go. An injury happens, but obviously they'll need a punter for week 1. We'll see if it's Morstead. I hope they go with somebody else. Morstead wasn't good enough for me. So that right there is the initial Niners 53-man roster, in addition to all of the roster cuts. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I know a lot of people have been asking to see the view here in Costa Rica. What's cool about this house, it is a naturally built home. So the foundation of it, all naturally built, or natural materials, I should say, and it really doesn't get any better than this. I'm in a mountain, in a jungle, awesome view. It's a little bit, obviously, of a whiteout, washed out behind me, but in between, I guess, right there is where the ocean is. But in the jungle, secluded a little bit, decompressing before the start of the NFL season. Been grinding heavy since August of last year, because NFL pretty much has a year-round calendar at this point. Some house cats in the building. Go Niners. Thanks to everybody for watching. I'll catch you soon. That's a look at the Casa Pura Vida. We'll see you.